How's it going, guys? I'm joined today by Alex, otherwise known as Almaster Flash. How's it going today, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, man. Really excited to do this.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. So, how long have you been practicing magic for?
So I've been initiated since I was pretty young, just in the things that I've been getting into, like psychic awareness and all that stuff, but actually practicing the past 4 years.
Okay. So, when you say initiated, what exactly do you mean by that?
So I remember exactly the point when I first really started to become aware of psychic phenomenon, magic, I was a really like imaginative kid, and I managed to pull this out. It was, I don't know if anyone remembers the Scholastic book fairs when we were in school, and the first one that I went to, I was in third grade, and I had like $9-10 on me, and I found this
It's a
psychic aware.
Scholastic book
Yeah,
fair.
dude,
Your
and
spirits had your back, man. That is incredible. Wow.
dude, and I'm like, it's followed me, man. Like anytime I moved from when I was a kid to now, this just always found its way back to me, dude. And it's like the like pages, you probably can't see, but they're like yellow and stuff. It's all,
Yeah, it's gotten some use, I can tell. That's
so
incredible. What an incredible story. So you went through like an internal initiation, like a soul initiation, as opposed to like an external lodge or coven.
yeah, and that's the thing too, man, is like, so I come from a family that none of them, they're more like Christian Catholic, average church going people, but I wasn't a Christian. My mom was very eclectic, and she really allowed me to like ask questions. You know what I mean? She was always honest with me on a lot of things. So like for example, I'm technically baptized Mormon because my mom went through a phase.
What a
So,
phase.
so I've got to see a lot of different sides and stuff, but like something in my family has always been like the little like, oh, don't misbehave in the boogeyman, or in Hispanic culture, kukui or something will come and get you, stuff like that. So it's always been in the back of my mind, but yeah, I kind of just found it on my own, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I was raised Catholic Christian. My dad's side of the family was Christian. My mom's side was Catholic. So it's amazing how ritualistic the Catholic ceremonies are. I mean, they're taken straight out of grimoires and just translated into a modern context.
Oh man, I mean the whole like communion on its
Yeah.
own, like, like, yeah, dude, like it's funny because like I don't know if you're familiar with like Dionysus and Dionysian mysteries and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar. It's kind of strange how like spot on they are with each other, with the resurrection, the water to wine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all of that stuff. So it's in my own studies, I mean, you'll find little tidbits of like community that are really into the whole idea that Dionysus and Jesus were the same person, but look into that, what you will.
There's a lot of parallels there that I've noticed already.
Yeah.
So what interested you in magic was basically your upbringing and the synchronicity, or the serendipity rather, of you finding that book at the Scholastic book fair.
Dude,
that's still blowing me away.
And that's the thing, man. And the thing is like, I mean, growing up, like seeing as we're into the things that we're into, we're all kind of strange, as a kid. But like when you're a kid and you're coming to connections, like, wait a minute, this just happened. Did this really just happen? And like kind of like being in your head, like, dude, that totally happened. And then like trying to bring it up in some instances to like older family members, cousins, whatever, and them calling you like weird or making fun of you, or like even playing into it. But like have these like ideas in your head when you're a kid, and just seeing how like serendipity, synchronicities, and how real they are. It's mind blowing. Like, especially now.
It's awesome. I was stuck with Captain Underpants, and you got psychic awareness. That's fair.
Dude, I was a fan of that too. I was definitely a fan of that too. The little pages where like you like flip them back and forth real fast, and the little cartoons that would happen. Yeah, no, that was my thing too, man. But yeah, no, I found that. I was lucky enough,
That's great. So what types of workings are you interested in though? Or do you do a lot of psychic work, or do you do what kind of stuff are you into?
So funny enough is in this book, of course it talks about a lot of like psychic phenomenon, but it also goes into like palmistry, astrology, stuff like that. Even like numbers, like the angel numbers and all that
Numerology.
stuff. It was talking about a lot of stuff like that, and I was actually like I was into all of it. Right now, my biggest thing is energy work within myself, and the biggest thing that I'm into right now is called assumption of the God form.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the biggest thing right now is being a musician. I perform a lot. I've been doing this ritual with Dionysus himself, you know, and
Beautiful.
man, like it's not all like partying and drinking like people like to think with Dionysians and stuff like that. It's just it's
Mm-hmm.
the energy and stuff, and like
The ecstasy and the rapture. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
you know, so it's like I like to use the assumption of the God form to try and explore parts of myself that I wouldn't know is there otherwise, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah, perfect. I don't hear a lot about the assumption of God forms outside of like orders, like Golden Dawn culture and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So that's refreshing. So
yeah. So
yeah, that's awesome. So what are your least favorite types of workings? Do you have something that just doesn't vibe with you or just doesn't resonate?
my biggest thing right now, and I'm saying this more so from a bias standpoint, I guess, is like the things that people do, like the 369 method, for manifestation purposes and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
I'm all for that, and if it works for you, then it works for you. You found something that you know gives you results, and I'm all for it. You know, but for me personally, I don't like sitting there and like asking for things that like when I sit and I manifest, right, or like the way that people usually think of manifestation is I wish for it to happen and it'll come to me without moving or putting in the footwork or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Have you ever have you ever seen that movie Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser?
Man, I was probably in middle school the last time I saw it. I remember, yeah, it had Brendan Fraser and I think it had the chick from Saving Silverman in it. But
Yeah, yeah. So the British chick, you know,
Mhm.
and like you know, there was a one scene when she comes in and he's like, she's the devil, and she like is telling Brendan Fraser, you know, ask for anything you want, wish for it, and it's yours. And he's just kind of like, okay, well, I want a Big Mac and a Coke, you know, and she's like, fine. And then a bus pulls up, right, and they get on the bus and they're just taking a normal bus ride to freaking McDonald's, and they order it and he pays for it and he gets what he wants, and he's like, what the hell? He's like, this isn't like
Not what I
anything.
expected.
Yeah, you know, but exactly what he got, what he wished for. You know what I mean? And it's
Absolutely.
like that whole little scene. It's like it's perfect example of like real manifestation. You know what I mean? It's the thing in my understandings with that is like, you know, it's all within you. But back to the original question is like, yeah, just the just wishful thinking, I guess, aspect of manifestation and how that's done right now.
Yeah, a lot of what I teach has to do with putting praxis into motion. You can't just sit there and hope things are going to come to you to the degree that you hope they're going to come to you. You've got to put in the work. Like you said, you have to become a vessel for that change.
Oh, 100%, man. Like, I agree with that. Yes, definitely.
So how has magic changed your life for the better?
Oh man. So the thing that I can actually tell you 100% right now is I've gotten a lot more in touch with myself.
Hmm.
You know, like you know that whole know thyself.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No thief Sautan. Yeah.
exactly. 100%. That's where I'm at right now, and I've grown a lot as a person, emotionally, mentally, physically. I feel better. Like if I were to show you pictures from like this point in time, a year ago, 2 years ago from now, like you can notice a visible change. Like it's just my happiness or what have you, you know. But I
Excellent.
attribute that a lot to magic.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear when people have these positive experiences because the culture is so against self-improvement, whether you call it magic or psychology. People just want to be stuck in their ruts, and it's so excellent and positive to hear that other people have had positive experience as well.
Really, man, and it's funny too. It's like you'd be surprised, and I'm pretty sure you've come across this, and anyone who's like in practicing magic themselves, like a lot of it overlaps, like psychology, quantum physics on some levels. Matt, it's kind of like the same thing in a way. Like it's
It's
interesting.
different facets of the same stone, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like same two different sides of the same coin thing. Like you
Yeah,
know what I mean? You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
absolutely. Yeah, my favorite ways to perform magic are to stack those different perspectives. So like I will use ceremony and I'll use NLP and I'll use hypnosis and I'll carve a sigil into a candle and I'll use herbalism and as many because I study Kabbalah. So it's all about stacking
Mhm.
correspondences
Oh,
and layers.
you know what? I've just started getting into Kabbalistic like readings. Like I just got a hold of the of Surf Yetzirah.
Oh, the Sefer Yetzirah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
The
I
book of
just started
formation.
reading. I
Mhm.
just started reading that. Started getting into that. So I'm seeing where that takes me.
You're in for quite a ride, my friend. It is a lifelong study that never ends, and I love it for it. I love
Um,
because I'm such an intellectual when it comes to study. Like I like to have scientific, practical information, and Kabbalah never ends, man. It's an infinite filing cabinet is one way to
oh,
think of it.
I'm looking forward to it. I truly am. Like that's. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, yes, yes.
Excellent. So it sounds like you have a lot of influences. What are your what if you had to name three of your major influences just off the top of your head? What would those be?
Um, what's Austin
Like,
Osman Spare?
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Okay,
He's great. In terms of chaos magic.
sure.
Uh, there are certain things with Aleister Crowley that, off the top of my head, like there's a lot of things that I disagree with, but a lot of things I do agree with. So I'll put them up there. You know,
Crowley, Crowley's an
and then I
interesting. Yeah,
say that
sorry. Go
again.
ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Um, uh, so with that, right, and then the third person, this might be like a little surprise for people, but Carl Jung,
I love Young. Yeah,
you know, and specifically in his work with the Red Book and the smaller
yeah,
ones,
yeah.
you know what I'm talking
I've got
about?
the red book right there on my bookshelf. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about? Just like
Mhm.
how he talked to his subconscious, how he talked to
Active
himself, like
imagination. Yeah, that's powerful stuff, man.
you know. So like those off the top of my head, those are the top three. If I'm not going into gods and stuff like that, those are the
Sure.
top three like influences,
Awesome.
you know, in
Those are
our
all
plane.
great influences. Those are areas that I draw from as well. As I was saying, Crowley is an interesting case. I'm going to catch so much flack for this probably, but I view Crowley in three like eras. I view
Okay.
Crowley as like he had like an aspirant era, and then
Mhm.
he had like an artificer era where he was just like making stuff up and being crazy, and then there was like his adept era. So like
Yeah.
when you read Crowley, you really have to take him with a grain of salt sometimes. But like I love magic and theory and practice. Like I love Liber Abba, the list goes on, but
Mhm.
he's an interesting case. You really got to watch him sometimes because
He
he was
got
into
kind of
some
go off the rails.
exactly, yeah.
Like
So
I
when
love. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
no
real
no
fast, that I thought about the story of when he was trying to get into I forgot what order he was a part of before he got booted out, and like that whole like magic fight that they had on the steps, and until finally just someone just came and punched him in the face.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean
it's
that's a perfect metaphor for life sometimes. Sometimes people are sitting there casting spells from their temples, and all you got to do is go out and sock someone in the jaw. It's
you
good to take physical action as well as magical action.
100%, man. Seriously, really, I agree with that.
So we've sort of talked about some of your strengths already with energy work and psychic capacity. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that as far as your strengths go?
Um, my strength, I think one of my biggest strengths is the ability to call myself on my shit.
Dude, that's a good one.
To be
That's a
honest,
good one.
like I'll catch myself, you know, getting comfortable in a certain practice or something that I'm getting into, you know, and I'll start like getting a little too big for my britches, you know, and then I'll check myself or something or something like, you know what I mean? Like, so
Mhm.
that's a big strength I like to add there.
That's funny because that's most people's weakness. So I'm curious to know what your perspective of your weaknesses are. If you have
Oh
a
man,
certain weakness that sticks out, if you want to talk about that, or we can just skip that and go to the next
no, I
question.
would love to talk about that. And so like I like to laugh at myself a lot, you know, keep
Sure.
myself humble when I can, you know, because I'll trip up in my hubris if I don't do that enough. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
So like for example, like dude, I have a wild imagination, dude. I really
Good.
do.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like I'll see something work so well, I'll get so lost in like magic. That's all it is. It's magic, you know, and like I was reading this book. I think it's called Condensed Chaos.
Sounds
Um
familiar.
yeah, and there was a metaphor that he used where he's like talking about how Joan of Arc, you know, and I was, oh, I read the signs, I saw the signs, and she's
Hmm.
in jail and she's about to die, and this angel comes up and is like, oh, hey, just so you know, yeah, no one was talking to you. You didn't see any signs at all. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but yeah, that wasn't us. So it's like
Delusion.
yeah, so it's
Hmm.
like at the same time, like she was being like she saw that everything that she was fighting for was real, but at the same time, that very thing that she was fighting for, it was telling her that she was full of shit. You know, like so
What a
it's
paradox. Yeah.
that sometimes like there isn't meaning to every single thing that you do. You know what I mean? Sometimes a piece of paper is just a fucking piece of paper that blew in your face. You know, sometimes
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Yeah.
yeah, dude. You know, and it's like so. My biggest weakness, by far, is sometimes I lose that. Sometimes I
Mhm.
forget to remind myself that sometimes it's just a cigar, dude.
It's easy to get lost in the magic of it all. Yeah.
100%, man. And losing my ability to discern things or critical thinking.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I try to stay as balanced as possible between intellect and intuition. And I think that's really important. I think you hit the nail right on the head with that.
Definitely, man. And funny enough, like in the time that we live in now, with you know, with post COVID and all the stuff, like aliens just came into the forefront all of a sudden, and everyone's like, "But how am I gonna pay my bills, bro?" Like I don't.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know, it's like people when something I've always said is like when people get scared, they get superstitious. You
Sure.
know,
Hmm.
so a lot of people with like tarot reading and stuff like that, they go through a heartbreak, and I've done it myself, man. It's like, you know, go through a heartbreak or some hardship, and I start looking for an answer somewhere outside of myself, like tarot, like I just said. But the thing is that once, you know, I go through that a bit, I start to realize it's like, you know what, these are all answers that I already had. You know, it's just
Exactly.
I'm more likely to accept it because I see it as coming from outside of myself. You know what I mean?
See,
So like,
yeah, the just to interject here, I guess just to supplement what you're saying, the way that I see tarot is like a very complex Rorschach test. It's like 78 Rorschach blots that are like cups for me to pour my subconscious into to see consciously right in front of me beyond the veil.
100, yes, that right there, exactly. That's exactly
Hmm.
what I'm getting at. You know,
Excellent.
so
It sounds like we have a lot of similar perspectives.
yeah, this is
So,
good. This is good.
what are some of your favorite entities to work with? Do you work with deities or spirits or entities, or do you just do a lot of personal?
So, so there are three entities that I work with right now.
Mhm.
And one of them is Dionysus, of course.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Uh,
That's right.
yeah, so Dionysus is one. Uh, there's Malphus, the demon Malphus.
Aha. Oh yeah. Hmm.
So that's interesting. And then I also like to work with whatever uh like land spirit is around
Yeah.
me.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Hmm.
So I try to get in tune with that person or that deity or entity. And
Hmm.
recently, the one that I've been looking into a lot is Loki.
Yeah.
You know, so but the whole trickster energy is
Love it.
trickster energy. So it's like, is it him? Is it, you know, it's the discernment thing is kind of having to come to play right there. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now with with working with entities and stuff. But mainly I work with myself. You know what I mean?
That's good. Yeah, I find all too often in the occult or in the esoteric philosophy community, people are they're giving their power away, you know. And I think that's a lot of where the old adage, I think there's two main places that the adage of selling your soul to the devil comes from. One is integrating the shadow, and two is selling all of your selling all of your potential to external sources, you know, like using goetic spirits or Shimham Farash, angels for everything.
Dude, and I love that you bring that up, because it's something that I actually came to realize, and this is a personal view of mine with amulets and talismans, right? So as a magician, I don't like the idea of having to pull my power from an object, you know, because what am I without that object? So let's put it in this term. So as a musician, right? My grandfather, who someone that turned me on to music and all that, he didn't really like the idea of me reading music. He said, once you take away that sheet of music, like, you freeze, you know? So work on your ear, work on how to play with people, you know, like move, ebb and flow with people, you know, like
Absolutely.
see what happens, you know? So that's how I like to see it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I by giving yourself your power away when you don't realize it.
Yeah, it's easy to become self-reliant on other people. I have a friend who is a classical guitarist. He's the one of the best guitarists that I know, but he cannot write a song to save his life. He can't improvise, and he can't write music, but he can literally play sonata after sonata from memory. But if you ask him to just improvise 30 seconds on a song, he freezes up. So that's a good metaphor. Yeah. It's funny how much music and magic have in common. I love it. I'm a musician as well.
Yeah. See, so like, frequency, it's energy. It's
absolutely.
You know what I mean? It makes sense that it works. I mean, even Nikola Tesla, you know,
absolutely.
He said that thing. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you know,
man, that's such a good quote. So I love Tesla. I love how many magicians were right there in the public's eye, just, you know, hiding in plain sight, you know.
Dude, I mean, and that's like that whole thing with what's that old thing where it's like how to be silent, how to
know, to will, to dare, to be silent.
Yes,
the powers of the Sphinx.
Yes. So it's kind of like that, and I wonder if like they were on that vibe. You know what I mean? If like they knew what they were doing. I mean, for example, it's like they call you crazy until it works. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and Tesla in his day was a freaking nut house, you know, but he had results. His results were hard to argue. You know, even now we're just now coming to terms with like, oh shit, he was on to something. You know?
Yeah, now we're realizing how correct he was.
Yeah, you know, so it's a lot like that. So I can't help but wonder if like if they knew that same thing, you know, like
I think they did. I think most of the major scientists from back in the day were alchemists and hermeticists, and at least had some degree of knowledge, even if it was just know thyself. That's enough to completely transform somebody. So,
dude, even I believe it was either Aristotle or the guy who invented calculus with the apple.
Newton.
Yeah, one of those guys had like a whole treatise on magic and alchemy.
That was Newton. Level. Yeah, he translated the Emerald Tablets into Latin.
No shit. No, I didn't know that. Yeah. See,
I think it was Latin. Yeah.
So like, yeah. So it's interesting with like how spot on everyone is, but how like separated we are still with you know, ideas and stuff like that. We're all on the same path, going for the same goal, but it's just a little thing that I heard it from Dave Grohl.
Okay.
So he said this quote. He said, "Do not follow in the footsteps of the masters. Seek what they sought."
Exactly. Well fucking said. Yeah. You know? Well said.
So I love that right there is exactly what comes to mind when I think of what we were just talking about.
That's a perfect segue into the next question, which is what are some recommended practices for intermediate or beginner practitioners?
Do whatever you can to expand your consciousness and critical thinking and discernment. You
Okay.
know, really question the things that you know, because the more that you learn, the more that you know nothing. Honestly, straight
Sure.
up. Because it's like we're all very consumed by our culture. Wherever you are, we are very much influenced by culture.
Yes.
You know, so like thinking about, I'm going to use myself for example. There are a lot of things that I used to believe in that I would have died on these hills, you know, if you asked me a couple years back, that now I'm like, this is garbage. Why did I ever believe this? And I trace it back to like, why did I believe this? And it's because my grandfather taught me, or my grandfather's grandfather, you know what I mean? It's like, what are your values? What are your ideas? You know, so,
challenge cultural conditioning, basically.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, are you familiar with Robert Anton Wilson?
Yes, I've got Prometheus Rising right there on my bookshelf.
Dude, I was about to bring it. Yeah, the 8 circuit models of consciousness, or whatever he calls them.
I got it right here on my wall.
Dude. See, yeah, so that right there, that's the thing. I'm heavy on him right now, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've actually got it on my wall right behind me here. I thought it was on that one, but yeah, the oral viscerotonic sensational circuit, the emotional political egotistic circuit, that completely, and I think that came from Timothy Leary originally. Yeah. That's Leary's model of the 8 circuit consciousness. So
in Prometheus Rising, I think in the acknowledgments, or like right before like the introduction of it, he talks about it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love how much we have in common already. This is awesome. Yeah. So expanding consciousness, the way that I also tutor and teach some of this stuff. And one of the first things that I teach people is to explore what capacities you already have in order to expand them. Like, do you have the capacity for clairvoyance? Can you scry? Well, once you figure out by exploring that you can, well, how many ways can you scry? And then once you figured out the best ways, exercise them. So it's explore, expand, and exercise. I love alliteration. I use alliteration in all my teachings.
I love it.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, expanding consciousness, goes right in with the first things that I teach. So way to start right at the beginning in a very practical way. Excellent. Anything else that you wanted to add to that besides explore consciousness? Or expand consciousness, rather. Sorry.
It's like, also, vet your sources, and like anything that you read, anything that you're like really interested in, you know, any like sort of school of thought, vet your sources, man, and then go one step further and vet the sources, you know what I mean? Like see where
exactly.
From, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so discernment and critical thinking, pretty much.
Those are great tools. Yeah. So what is the hardest part about being a practitioner to you? And in your mind, what's the hardest part about being a practitioner?
Consistency.
A lot of people say that. Yeah. So what do you mean by that?
So consistency is we get caught up in our daily lives, you know, in the modern world at work, you know, and it, like a lot of us too, we're not all, you know, we don't all have like that circle of friends that all know what we're talking about, what we're doing, you know what I mean? And it's like, depending on like where you are with your self-image and like how you feel people like see you, like it can be hard to like try and do a ritual like at a specific time, like 12 o'clock every day on the dot, regardless of where you're at, you know, be it at a birthday party, work, or by yourself, because, you know, people will view you differently. You know, it's hard. There's a part like when you start going down this path that I've noticed personally, like, the deeper that you go, you know what I mean? The more detached you can find yourself becoming if you don't bring yourself back to center in a way.
Yeah, like, staying grounded and centered is very, very important. There's a lot of practices for beginner magicians. The Kabbalistic cross and the middle pillar ritual from the Golden Dawn, the Western Hermetic traditions teach a lot about grounding and centering. And even most people consider me a left-hand practitioner just because I work with demons and stuff. I consider myself to be relatively middle path, but yeah, I work with demons, therefore I'm a left-hand practitioner. But even as a left-hand practitioner, I still find value in some of the right-hand path exercises, you know?
Really, and honestly, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because that's another thing that we all have to kind of keep in mind too, is that we're all human, you know, like we're all human and we're all, you know, the ideas that we have and everything that we agree on, like for example, you know, this table that I'm sitting at is brown, right? But I don't know for a fact that it's
I'll take
brown,
your word
you know?
for it.
Yeah, you know, it's like, Yeah. So it's like we just agree that brown is brown, you know what I mean? So when we talk about like good and evil, left hand, right hand path, it's like it's all like
It's all relative and subjective, right?
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So it's I don't like demonizing like people's like oh left hand right hand path like oh you're a Christian practitioner like I don't know like stuff like that like I don't know that just came to mind but you said
No,
that you
I get it. Yeah.
yeah
It's not only how relative and subjective everything is, it's the gradients and the degree between things is so fine that I'm not sure you can draw a line.
yeah dude and it's funny too because like a lot of times in anyone's like perspective like it's easy to say what's good and what's bad and whatnot when you're the one drawing the line.
Hey, yeah, well said. Well said.
You know.
Man. So I guess that's a good next question is what is the difference between a left-hand path practitioner and a right-hand path practitioner, if there is one in your eyes?
So my idea, if I had to really, define it, so left hand to me is like working your way up to, in a way, become God, right? Right hand path is more of like to be at the service of God, or what you would call God.
That's a very concise answer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is silence something that you find important in daily life and in magical practice, or do you think silence is overrated?
Oh, dude. See, I wrestle with this a lot because I like to talk. I'm big about it's. I have a sigil that I did right here.
Sure.
It's everything I speak into existence because I run my mouth a lot. I talk a lot. So I like to stay mindful of what I say. So, man, it is important. It's more of a like when and where to apply it. Be
Sure.
careful what you say, because you don't know who's around, and your words carry a lot of power.
Sure.
There's a guy, Masaru Emoto. He did
Yeah.
that with the water of crystals, where he put like positive words to certain like
Yeah.
water crystals, and like it changed depending on what words he used and stuff like that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I did the same experiment but with crystals.
That's
And
cool.
I have a TikTok or whatever, and I put it on there to see like what would change and whatnot. And it looks cool, but I have to have a little more concise, like more
Data.
down to earth. Yeah. But from what it looks like, it's energy and stuff. It all, it translates well to ice. But yeah, so apply it when you can, where you can. Just be mindful, I guess, is my answer to that.
So basically, silence is a tool, and like any tool, there's a time and a place.
Yes, there. I like that. I'm gonna go with that.
So, what are some things that one should avoid as a practitioner, or just as a human being living in this crazy universe?
Blind faith.
Blind faith. That's a great answer, man.
Yeah. Blind
All
faith.
right.
Definitely.
So, all right. Well said. Next question. how is magic viewed in your area, generally?
In my area, my neck of the woods over here, it's no one pays any mind to it. And the ones that
they don't care if you're doing it, or they don't believe it, or
both. They don't care that I'm doing it. They don't believe it. The only one that really pays attention to me is my grandma, and she's just an older, wise woman in her 70s.
Sure. Sure.
Like, but she doesn't like Bible thump on me or anything like that. She just like asks me like, why do you think that? Like, why is that a thing for you? Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, she listens, so it's nice.
I love conversing with elderly people because there's just such a weight of wisdom behind every word.
The insight, man. Like, really, like, holy shit, dude. And it's like, and she tells me stories too. Like, there's certain things that I say where she's like, oh man, you sound like the hippies. Like back when I was your age, like she'd hang out at rock concerts and stuff. She's like, holy shit, you're saying a lot of things that like I would give her like a lot of like blast from the past, like
deja vu kind of blast from the past, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the insight, man.
So this might be an irrelevant question depending on how you view this, because I remember earlier you said you have to be very grounded and you don't want to be superstitious. So I think this is a good question. How do you feel about magical defense and recognizing if or when one is under attack magically?
So with that, right, is I really don't think that it works that way, to be honest. The only thing that I can really vouch for is like psychic vampirism.
Sure.
You know, personally in my own experiences, but I don't think people can really get cursed, really. Like if you start to believe in it, you know, and like, oh man, I got cursed, and the more that you feed into it, like wherever your thoughts flow or wherever thoughts go, energy flows type thing. You know, and to be honest, if I've been cursed, I've never felt it. You know, if anything, I've cursed myself.
Sure.
You know?
Self-imposed hexes are a topic that I cover on my channel a little bit because they're so common. I always hear people saying, man, every time this happens. And I'm like, stop, just
silence.
Yeah.
You know,
so
no.
Yeah. But so yeah, I had a feeling you were going to have an answer that was somewhere along those lines.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that there. And it's like if you allow it to happen, then it will happen, to be honest, be it yourself or like, you know, getting the evil eye from someone or whatever, you know, it's all, I mean, if we're talking about chaos magic, right? Belief, you know, like definitely. So yeah, so that's my answer to that.
Awesome. Well, the final question I have listed, but doesn't necessarily need to be the final part of the discussion, is what are some things that you would like to learn in the future?
The thing that I would like to learn in the future, honestly, man, that's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know. There's really, all I know is that I have a goal, right? And I'm gonna get there. I don't know what it is, really.
Hey, that's all right, man. I don't think any of us truly know where we're going. I think we have hopes and dreams to get there.
You know, and it's a more concrete answer, I guess, is just like I want to understand myself.
Sure. That's a great answer. There's nothing wrong with, you know, trying to discern the infinitude that is individuality.
Yep.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, was there any questions that you might have had for me or anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this, man? Like, well, what's up with the channel? Like, I saw that you said that you know, you have a new channel. Like, so is there like a second channel that you're gonna like open up, or?
No, I guess I meant that more as in like it's not brand new. But it's new compared to some of the other, you know, well-established channels.
Like a Foolish Fish. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, I love Foolish Fish. I love Darling. I love Esoterica. Yeah, there's such a great community out there. Hearth Witch is another really good one.
Angela's
Symposium. Yeah, I love Angela's Symposium. Yeah, the list goes on. Maybe I'll post some more of those channels in the description so that people can sort of go down those rabbit holes. Yeah.
What's something that you're like reading right now? Like, what are you getting into right now? Like,
okay, so I actually forgot to answer your first question. Your first question was, how long have I been doing this?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is a long time. So when I was about 3 or 4 years old, I had cancer, and I was in the hospital like for months and months and months and months and months. And I would see and hear and feel spirits. Like, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it. And like I would see basically dead kid, because I was at Riley, which is a children's hospital, and I would talk to the kids like they were just my friends. And growing up, I was raised in a Christian and Catholic household, and so I learned to stop doing that real quick. And then when I was about 13, I started dating this chick who was a Wiccan. And all of her friends were Wiccan. And so that was my introduction. And I had somewhat of an initiation at her 13th birthday party, which I lovingly refer to as sort of a Wiccan bat mitzvah. Her mom initiated me because we'd been together so long. She was like, okay, you need to get in on this.
Right.
So 13 years old, started practicing various what I call wishcraft, which is, manifestation and stuff like that. And
Wishcraft. I like that. I like that.
then, and to me, it's a good description of it. And as I got older, well, eventually her and I broke up because a jealous friend of mine told her that I was cheating on her. And so she broke up with me, and then she moved and I never saw her again. So I was like on my own with this magic stuff from the time I was 13 until I was like 17. And then I started taking like LSD and mushrooms and MDMA, and that was like a whole shamanic, experience for me. Fast forward to now, I've been practicing knowingly for about, I almost want to say like 20 years at this point. It's been a couple decades, but my practice has evolved in several ways. I would say that I've really, really, really been practicing the way that I practice now for about 3 years, which is like super heavy. Like I live and breathe it. Every single thing I do, I see as an act of magic. I wake up in the morning, I remember I'm a practitioner, and every thought and action goes through the scrutiny of, does this make me a better practitioner? And once I started doing that, it was like a whole evolution process occurred. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and I do it a lot. So this is why I love to talk about it, because magic is everything to me. And whether you look at it from the guise of philosophy or psychology or whatever, it's just so freaking interesting to me. Books that I'm reading right now, I'm re-going through my Qliphothic. So I'm going back through what's known as the Qliphoth. I don't know if you're familiar with. So in Kabbalah, there's this thing called the Tree of Life, which you're probably reading about in the Sefer Yetzirah, and it's basically a model of existence and consciousness. Well, there's a shadow realm to that tree that is essentially devoted to unconsciousness and the shadow, and it's a practical way to get into your shadow step by step so that you don't slide down and end up in a fucking world of hurt. Yeah. So I'm reading a book right now, rereading a book right now called The Night Side of Eden by Kenneth Grant.
I'm going to write that down. That's interesting.
There's a book I would recommend before that one that you might write down as well.
All right. Go ahead.
It's called Kabbalah, Qliphoth, which is Qliphoth, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic.
And Goetic Magic.
And it gives a really good basic breakdown of the philosophy of the shadow of existence, basically. And so Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic is like sort of a macrocosmic view, and then the Night Side of Eden is more of a microcosmic view of it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So yeah, most people
the Night Side of Eden. The Night Side of Eden.
And that's by The Night Side of Eden is by Kenneth Grant, and the other one is by someone named Thomas Carlson with a K. And I'll warn you that it's heavy stuff, man. Like, some people get into this stuff and their whole life goes upside down because they were so far away from truth and understanding. Well, truth and understanding that they end up completely upside down, but a lot of times it's for the best because they were going the wrong way anyway.
Right. You just mentioned that you essentially were like, you saw into the veil when you were younger. So did you pass away, or like were you close to death?
So there's been a few times in my life where I've actually died, and there's been a few times where I have been like very close to dying. So I didn't die when I had cancer, but I distinctly remember floating above my body during the operation as a 4-year-old and just cracking up because I felt like I was being tickled by angels. I don't know how else to describe it. And then there was an accident that I got into, and there was I had depression when I was a teenager. So then there was that whole thing, and death has been right next to me my whole life, which is one reason that I work with the death current and necromancy a lot, is because death is like a very close friend to me. It's like a really cool uncle.
Bro, okay, so like I have a thing called an arachnoid cyst in my
Interesting.
head, and it takes up like the whole like left hemisphere of my head. It looks like I have half a brain. Okay, and
Wow.
I myself I've died 3 times on the operating table for one of my brain surgeries, or from 3 out of like the 12 that I've had in my life. And so my experiences are like really like odd, but it's the first time I was like 16 and stuff, and like having to deal with that whole like reality of dying and trying to talk about it with people who are kids, your friends who are all, you're all teenagers, you guys
They don't
don't.
get, yeah.
Yeah, how do you talk about that, you know what I mean? So it's interesting that that's like another thing, and I have like pictures of it too. I'll send it to you,
Yeah,
so you can
I'd love to see that. That's I've never heard of that before. That's interesting, and it makes me wonder why it's an arachnoid. That's very, very interesting.
So from what they explained to me, it's like a mass, right? And the thing that makes it an arachnosis is it has like these like vein like
Angel.
things. Yeah, that like kind of like come out and like kind of just like latch onto your stuff, So like,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's why they call it that. But yeah, man.
That's
So
super interesting.
it's a trip, dude. It's a trip. That's funny. No, but so that's cool. Like, so you said you had to school,
I said
or
what? I'm sorry.
you have a school, or you teach? You said.
Yeah, so I tutor individuals on sometimes, so I do counseling and tutoring. And
Okay.
so I do spiritual counseling part-time, and then I do tutoring part-time, and then I'm a student part-time. And I'm going to school for kinesiology so I can be a physical therapist as
Oh,
well
wow.
as well as a spiritual therapist. So I
Oh,
can
wow.
sort of hit the as above, so below, as within, so without. Like I can hit all of it, and I can help my clients in any way that I can. But yeah, I tutor everything from sigil craft to candle spells to how to create your own ceremonies. I tutor. I do like clefothic and sephirotic pathworking. I help people learn how to like make their own rituals and stuff. I've got a list that I'll send you, just so you know what kind of questions you can ask me about, and I'd be more than happy to elucidate some things for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, like, cause I'm always one to learn. Like, I like to think of myself as like forever a student, you
Yeah,
know,
me too. Yeah.
So like I like you seem like you teach a lot of like cool stuff that I would like be interested in seeing, like learning. So I would love to reach out to you on that on some time.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. Well, I I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. I don't want this
Yeah, yeah.
conversation to end. Maybe I'll have you back on in like another month or something, and we'll have another discussion.
I'd be more than happy to, man. No, thanks for having me, dude. I'm glad you reached out. Yeah, man. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see what happens.
Excellent. Well, anything else that you want to mention, or you said you had a YouTube channel? Did you want to go ahead and plug
Yeah.
that?
So I have a YouTube channel, Almaster Flash, ALMASTER Flash. It's all one word. You guys like music, bass covers, stuff like that. Check it out. And I have links to all my other music stuff too, if you guys want to check it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, man, and it was good talking to you.
Good talking to you, man. You take care.
All right, peace, man. Have a great weekend.
You too.